the news on PBCJ, I am Simone Absalom. A member of the board of Southeast Regional Health Authority, SERA, has been appointed to lead an investigation into the improper disposal of the bodies of newborn babies, or neonates, at the Kingston Public Hospital. According to the chairman of SERA, Philip Armstrong, an immediate investigation was ordered into the circumstances under which the bodies of two newborns were being stored at the KPH morgue, which were improperly disposed of on Friday. Newborns, especially those less than a month old, are classified as neonates. Senior medical officer at the Victoria Jubilee Hospital, Dr. Orville Morgan, says there is an issue with the tracking of the movement of body parts or babies from the morgue. He says this needs to be tightened up, as well as proper disposal of body parts. The Ministry of Health remains on high alert amid a report by the Trinidad-based Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPA, warning the region to gear up for the possibility of a major outbreak of dengue fever this year. Last week, CARPA said there has been an increase in cases of dengue in Latin America in recent months, and this should be expected across the Caribbean. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jacqueline Bessesso-McKenzie says the Ministry of Health is already taking steps to sensitize the public and eliminate mosquito breeding sites. Dengue is a flu-like illness that affects children and adults, but it can be severe and cause death. Symptoms typically begin 4 to 10 days after infection. The state-of-the-art vessel used by Tullow Oil to carry out Jamaica's first ever oil and gas exploration 3D seismic survey has now left Jamaican waters, carrying the hopes of a nation that sometime soon commercial quantities of the precious commodity will be found. Conclusion of the survey marks another milestone in the decades-long search by state-run Petroleum Corporation of Jamaica for oil and gas, which, if found, is widely believed to be profitable to Jamaica's economy. The survey, part of a production sharing agreement with the PCJ, was wrapped up on May 8 after covering a 2,250 square kilometer section of the Walton-Morant block of Jamaica's south coast. It took approximately 45 days. Analysis of the data gathered from the 6-week survey could take between a year and 18 months. The findings will determine if Tullow will elect to drill an exploratory well in Jamaica's offshore in the future. Officials involved in the study have been at pains to urge caution, stressing that while hopes were high, it was way too soon to conclude that oil and gas would be found in commercial quantities. A declaration document that is expected to shape the development of the higher education subsector in Jamaica has emerged from the just concluded 2-day summit in Kingston. Education Minister Royal Reid, who was given the document on Friday by Chairman of the Higher Education Summit Committee, Dr. Damian Black, said it will be integral in transforming the way tertiary education is delivered in Jamaica. Reid said the document, which came out of the suggestion by the various stakeholders, will help chart a course for students to have better access to education at universities. The Education Minister said the summit was staged to address issues relating to the management and regulation of the higher education sector. It is being reported that Capleton, whose real name is Clifton Bailey, has been arrested and charged with rape by detectives attached to the Center for Investigation, Sexual Offences and Child Abuse, CISOCA. Capleton allegedly committed the act against a female hairdresser he hired to groom his hair. The 51-year-old is to appear before the St. Andrew Parish Court on Monday. Reports from the police's corporate communications unit are that on Saturday, April 28, about 11:20 a.m., Bailey allegedly hired a female hairdresser to groom his hair at a hotel in New Kingston. While at the hotel, it's reported that he forcibly had sexual intercourse with her. The matter was reported to the police and an investigation launched. Bailey was subsequently charged after a question and answer interview was conducted in the presence of his attorney. In regional news, the government of Antigua and Barbuda says it will formally apologize before the Organization of American States, the OAS, on Monday on discrimination against the Rastafarian community in an effort to improve relations with the religious group. An Antigua and Barbuda government statement issued on the weekend said its ambassador to the United States and the OAS, Sir Ronald Saunders, will address the Permanent Council of the OAS this week to advise that the Prime Minister has apologized to the Rastafarian community for decades of discrimination against them. The Antiguan envoy said Brown readily agreed for Ambassador Franklin Francis, a leading member of the Rastafari community, to also address the OAS Permanent Council on the actions of the Antigua and Barbuda government. The Trinidad-based Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, was set to hold an emergency meeting yesterday as a St. Lucian-born academic challenges the Electoral Boundaries Commission to have his name included in the electoral list. CCJ President Sir Dennis Byron headed a 5-member panel of judges to hear the matter. The CCJ is Barbados's highest court. Political observers said that the matter has implications not only for the appellant but also for Commonwealth citizens living in Barbados who want to be registered to vote in the May 24 general elections. Professor Eddie Vantos, who has lived in Barbados for several years, is seeking to be included in the Barbados Electoral Register. He alleges that under the prevailing laws he is qualified and entitled to be registered. The Court of Appeal earlier last week ruled that Vantus was entitled to be registered to vote, but stopped short of compelling the Chief Electoral Officer to do so, instead ordering the Chief Electoral Officer to determine Professor Vantus's claim within 24 hours. Vantus is asking the CCJ to declare that his name should be on the final voters list ahead of its publication this week. In sports, reigning Olympic champion Omar McLeod held off Spain's Orlando Tiga to win the men's sprint hurdles in a rain-drenched night at the Shanghai Diamond League on Saturday. Running out of lane 5, the Jamaican led from the start and cleared the final hurdle still in front, but was forced into a leaning finish in order to prevent Ortega from sprinting through the lane 8 to take the win. The result was a world-leading 13.16 seconds, while Ortega was timed at 13.17 seconds, with Russian Sergei Shubenkov finishing third in 13.27. McLeod, who missed last month's Commonwealth Games in Australia, said, quote, "I was kind of overcome with emotions because I've been through a lot this season," end quote. Commonwealth Games champion and fellow Jamaican Ronald Levy trailed in fourth in the 13.33, while fellow countryman Hans Parchment, who took silver in Gold Coast, was fifth in 13.48 seconds. And that's the news. Thanks so much for making it PBCJ. Pleasant viewing.